Welcome to day 2 of the Open Business Council Cities ABC Summit. We've had an incredibly full day, and I'm delighted to have not only you watching us today and participating, but essentially a stalwart of support from Antonio Limongi, who I was talking to from Brazil first thing this morning when we started at 0800 UK time, and Serafima with all her great work in DJing the whole event as well, and then Dennis participating and being the visionary behind the Cities ABC Open Business Council Summit. So I'd like to start today with an overview of how the day went. We've had a superb day with an incredible amount of very talented, informative and visionaries who have participated in the panels. The first one today was redesigning business after COVID from an ESG and a sustainable finance and digital transformation and investment perspective, which was chaired by Dennis Guarda. And we had Francesca Sanderson, who's the Director of Arts Program and Investment at Nesta, Junaid Imam from the Government of Pakistan, Neil Milliken, who's the Global Head of Accessibility at Atos, Access Chat W3 Consortium, and as a W3 Consortium advisor. Then Michael Sun, who's the founder and CEO of Carbon Blue, who basically is an academic and researcher, studied in the US, lived and worked in Amsterdam, now lives in Shanghai, and was speaking to us today from Shanghai. This is a very, very, very informative panel. I learned a lot from that particular panel, especially how we can work on strategies that would allow us to really be the glue, some way finding the glue where you have your public-private partnerships and philanthropy interacting all together in terms of supporting businesses in a sustainable way, particularly with ESG. And a lot of the time we talked a lot about as arts and culture as well. Then we moved on later to centralized finance versus decentralized finance and DeFi, and particularly digital assets and NFTs. That was chaired by Hiranda Misra, and he had a fantastic team that supported him. Hiranda is from GMAX, and Melanie Moore is from WM Protocol Singapore. Peter Christensen, who's just down the road from me, he's moved over to Portugal, like me, from JP Fund Services. And then Khalid Saad, who's the board member of the Bahrain chapter of Opcal Angel Investors and Coin Media. And then I had, Xavier Gomez, who's from Paris and from Invio. And then Max Lautenschlager, who's the managing partner and co-founder of Iconic Holdings. There was a very, very interesting debate. Peter Christensen made some specific comments in terms of the democratization of the investment space and being very clear in terms of education and focusing essentially on how do we really make this accessible for everybody. That was one of my clear takeaways from that. Serafima, if you have any comments to make on the first 2 panels that we had.
Well, I appreciate everybody joining the panels and the great expertise and insights, which helped us to contribute, building a positive narrative around the challenges and the opportunities of the 4th Industrial Revolution and frontier technologies. And also big thanks to all our viewers. And first half of the day covered over 20,000 views on our YouTube channel, Dennis Guarda. And we had a massive involvement on Open Business Council Twitter. And we believe that these sessions on the business and challenges of a digital economy are all bringing us back to the idea of why did we all here founded Open Business Council, to bring all SMEs and businesses and empower them in the challenging times and to develop their businesses.
Thank you, Serafima. So the next, what was very interesting, the next 2 panels were quite interesting. I chaired the first one, which is how our scale-ups and venture capital accelerator networks aiding growth to the business startup ecosystem. It was a great honor to be working with William Barbin who's general partner of SOSV, and he was from Taipei today. And then we had Arun Sharma, who is the general partner of Scale Up Malaysia. He's talking to us from Kuala Lumpur, and had spent some time working with MDEC, which is the Malaysia Digital Economic Corporation, that we had on a panel, the CEO, Serena, yesterday. Then we had Charlie, who was the managing partner of Carbon Blue Ventures, and then John Sharp, who was amazing. He's talking to us from Singapore, and the great work that he's done at Hatcher. I mean, one of the key takeaways from that panel was there are a lot. They talked about the pyramid, and at the top of the pyramid are the accelerators and the scale-up organizations that really do a great job. And one of the interesting things, and from personal experience, and if you watch the video, you'll see I asked a specific question, is that there are thousands of accelerators out there, and all of them do provide funding and access to capital, etc. and that. But some of them actually ask you to pay to join the program. And I mean, when I mentioned that to this team, they all chuckled and said, okay, they're not at the top of the pyramid. So that was a very interesting takeaway from that particular panel. And then we moved on to a great panel, which was chaired by Elise Quevedo, who's a thought leader and influencer and has written many books. And she chaired a session on continued learning, data, research, edtech, and tech as an enabler, which I think is a really important subject. And it's come up time and time again in all the panels, is that its education is key. We really need to educate and provide channels of education that's easily digestible for everybody, not the professionals, but the everyday user of fourth industrial revolution type technologies. And on that panel was Professor Yu Chong, who's Associate Dean at the University of Surrey and Chair of Business Analytics. Dr. Jamal Kanish, who's Professor and Chair of Business Analytics at the University of Edinburgh. Sidi Ahmed, who's the Senior Project Manager of SAP at the University of Lausanne. And Nguyen Binh Tron, who is the Research Associate Data Science Institute, Department of Computing at Imperial College London. This was a very engaging panel. I mean, we worked very closely with Professor Yu Chong and Dr. Jamal on the paper that we presented yesterday, the white paper and report, which is the Index DNA. And this was a really interesting panel. And there were some great takeaways from that, which I invite you to actually go and view when you have a chance. And then we were followed by a great partner of ours, which is Assad Sultan, who was chairing a panel on fintech, govtech, legal tech, and proptech, which sounds like a really daunting subject, but they really distilled it down because we had some great participants. Zeynep Engin, who was the founder, director, data and policy of CIC, and a senior research associate at the University of Cambridge. And then, of course, a great practitioner from Switzerland, Gunther de Braus, who's a partner and leading PwC Legal Services partner, and a leader in global legal tech, etc. And then we had Patrick Tan, who was the CEO and General Counsel for Novum Alpha from, I think he was from Singapore. And then Jasprit Bindra, who was the founder of Digital Matters, Inc. That was a very engaging panel, and we learned a lot about how governments willing, and providing and working with regulation, and basically it's a catch-up. At the end of the day, governments are playing catch-up. They always will play a catch-up, but it's up to the organizations in terms of the legal profession and the fintech profession to come together and really engage with the governments and regulators to drive forward the adoption of the new technologies into that ecosystem. And then we moved on to a panel which was chaired, but it was very engaging, is that Simon Cocking is the editor-in-chief of the Irish Tech News and well known to many people in the fintech industry. And they were talking about blockchain, DeFi, and CBDCs, which is the digital currencies, and the next fintech frontier. So a lot of foresight coming from that panel. he was joined by Eloisa Machasoni, who is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Blockchain. Then Dr. Eva Zaski, I apologize for the mispronunciation of your name, who's executive director of the Hunt Institute for Engineering and Humanity at SMU and co-founder of the Inclusive Economy Consortium and president of FinTech for Good, which is quite a really powerful forum that she is involved in. And then Marcello Miranda, who's the founder of FinChain and Flow BTC and PandaPay, and Jahin Christine Jiang, who's Hauser Global Fellow of New York University School of Law. I mean, this was very, very interesting because, you know, recent developments in the digitization of the one through a cryptographic process rather than a blockchain process, and how that was driving forward the potential for DeFi and how that would impact sovereign fiat currencies globally. And that was really, really interesting and challenging panel. And I think it came across with fantastic commentaries, fantastic insights from what they were talking about. And then it was a lovely panel that was AI, robotics, singularity, and deep tech, the next frontier, which chaired by Dennis. And we were really delighted to have, I mean, luminaries in the AI industry and robotics industry, which was Ben Gorsel, who's a scientist and CEO of Singularity.net, and then Dr. Scott Parazinski, who's a physician, but very, very well known for doing multiple flights on the space shuttle as a physician and an astronaut. I personally have seen him launch into the atmosphere once. You know, his family are great family friends. And this man is a great visionary and a great pioneer, and always pushed the boundaries of what can or can't be done, and great respect. And then, of course, we were joined by Aidan Meller, who is the creator of AI and Ada the robot. Ada the robot is a robot that's been developed with by Aidan and his team with Oxford University in Leeds. They've produced a very, very creative robot, Ada, who's really thought about the way in which a robot and using AI can actually do fantastic, creative things and reflect on how do we interact with society, interact with robots. And then Olivia Gamblin, who's the founder and CEO of Ethical Intelligence and AI ethicists. This is really, really important because at the end of the day, AI is such a powerful tool. But the clear thing is, how does the data be used? How does the AI components interact with the individual? And what are the ethical issues that are as a result of that? So there's a massive debate, and this went. I mean, it's a wonderful time. I must not forget, but there was a fantastic gentleman from Mr. Suit, who is basically, he has built another robot called Coda, which is basically a four-legged canine robot, which has great empathy, apparently, with a lot of its interactions with people. And that was a really, really powerful contribution from on his behalf. And then, of course, we moved on to future cities and investments and strategies for governments and future cities, which was moderated by Dr. Celine Chehan-Wong, who is the philanthropy ambassador, Smiling Gecko in Switzerland. And she was joined by Amir Gutman, who's a managing partner of Viva Venture Capital in Israel, Angel Garcia, who is the founding partner of Lanta Digital Ventures Spain, and Othman Zrikem, who's the founder of AO PropTech. I didn't have an opportunity to spend some time on this one, but from what I heard from my colleague, this was a great way of looking at future cities and what impact these investments have on the future cities, particularly that coming from governments. And then we moved on to an ESG, social inclusion, carbon footprint, and energy panel, which was moderated by Fares Awais, the chief instigator and instigation protocol. And he was supported by a great poet, Michael Stanley Jones, apart from his running as a program management office for the United Nations Environment Program, and Eduardo Javier Munoz, who's the CEO of EV Share, which is a company that he established on basically EV Share is a company that's focusing on shareable electronic vehicles. So, which is and he's working with governments and cities in order to get those sustainable ways of actually moving people and mobility around cities. And Alexandre Berndt, who's the chief researcher from Embrapa, Pecuria, Sudesta, and then Andrea Felipe Rodriguez Lauman, who's a social worker at ILS at Lucas Amoroso Institute. And then the last panel of the day, which was chaired by Antonio Vieira Santos, who's the senior workplace expert at Atos on digital transformation, blockchain, and the workplace of the future. There was a really, really inspiring bit of commentary and visions from great panels. In particular, Vernon Sankey, who, a great visionary, a great author, a board member of Atos. His contribution was legendary for the day, supported by Linda Goetz, who is the co-founder of DFM Data Corp. I mean, remember one of Linda's comments was, she was asked the question, what do you think of blockchain? And she said, free speech. And I really liked that comment. And then, of course, Glenn Perry, who's the professor of digital transformation at the University of Surrey, and Charlie Copper, who's is part of New Chip Accelerator, which is a venture association. So there it is. That was the day 2 of the Open Business Council Cities ABC Summit. I ask you all to, if there's anything in this highlights that you'd like to have a look at, please go back and you'll be able to relive the lives and even make comments and engage, because you have a fantastic number of people that would be a great source of information, knowledge, and expertise that if you engage with them to really help you on your 4th Industrial Revolution journey in terms of the construct of Society 5.0. So that's me for the day. Serafima, I would really, really like you to take some of the limelight off me, and then we'll be passing over to Antonio Limongi.
Well, thank you, Hilton, very much for such a great roundup and for such a descriptive explanation of how our day was, and presenting each and every one of our esteemed speakers. And as you said, we have covered urgent issues, trending and disruptive topics, such as boom as 4th Industrial Revolution, AI, DeFi, always widening possibilities of using blockchain, benefits, pros and cons of using those technologies in the businesses. What challenges do businesses face, and how can governments can utilize those technologies to improve and make sure that they enable small, medium businesses as well as corporations to make the world a better place. But this day for me today especially was more like a masterclass day, because we went in a more detail with each panel. We covered more narrower topics, as you mentioned yourself. We spoke about GovTech, PropTech. We had panels on blockchain and finance, and all our panelists, very esteemed and very well-known specialists in these areas, which makes this day very knowledgeable, insightful. And seriously, I would call this a masterclass day of Open Business Council Summit. We have, Open Business Council in itself is a leading global digital business directory and certification and marketplace, and it was created by us to work with governments, businesses, networks, and create ecosystems. And we hope that with these 2 days of our summit, we have already created certain ecosystem synergies, connected our speakers, connected our audience, and let them know about companies out there, about possibilities and challenges. And we hope that this summit brought overall positive attitude. And tomorrow we would even continue with our third day, and we're very excited to have the last day of our summit tomorrow.
Brilliant. I mean, tomorrow looks really, really exciting in terms of we're starting at 8 a.m. UK time. We're going to be talking about smart cities and the challenges and the opportunities. It's going to be chaired by our partner, World Smart Cities Forum, with Jason Peter Chun. And then we're going to move on to some case studies in terms of Singapore, Netherlands, and the UK. And then, of course, we're going to be also looking at the circular economy and industry experts. So that's going to be a really sort of a full day. And we'll finish off with a special event, and I really want to highlight that, where we're going to be joined by two very, very important people. We're going to be talking to Javed Jaffrey, who's basically a well-known, very well-admired, and very empathetic actor, performer, dancer, visionary from Bollywood, and also Professor Kiran Fernandez, who helped us in terms of chairing and managing the Index DNA Cities ABC white paper and report. And we've been joined back by Antonio S.Limongi, who, as I mentioned in the beginning, he has been a stalwart. He spent the day engaged with all the panelists on the panels. And I would like to hand over to Antonio because he has made a wonderful commentary on the day, and he'd like to share that with you. Antonio, mucho obrigado.
It's my pleasure. I thank you very much, you all. Can I start my speech?
Sí, obrigado. Please.
Okay. I thank you, first of all, I thank you, Denise, Hilton, Serafima, Rachel, and everybody that are in the support of this event. It's essential nowadays to highlight themes involving 4.0 technologies, mainly blockchain, artificial intelligence, digital transformation, 5G communications, IoT, electronic data literacy, big data, all in connection with the 5.0 society and the social impacts resulting from this connection. What's the reason? Providing the best care to people with physical and mental disabilities, or even to the elderly, or people in some specific social situation, is an ethical duty for all of us. We know that the pandemic remains a major problem for countries. In Brazil, as an example, vaccination has started, though a little bit late. We hope that this year things will start to improve in the country, be it in the health sector, or in the economy, or in the education sector. Home office came and changed customs and businesses. Some businesses are no longer relevant, such as small restaurants close to large corporate buildings. The real estate segment is also changing, as buildings now need to have a large space to receive deliveries of everything, and the apartments need an additional room for the home office. Several large companies have realized that they will be able to maintain the home office even after the pandemic. In this event, we have the participation of Professor João Amato Neto tomorrow morning from the University of São Paulo, with the theme of sustainability in the industries. We have today Dr. Alexandre Bernet from the government agency Embrapa, focused in agribusiness. Embrapa is a very important, relevant agency in Brazil in the agriculture segment. We have the entrepreneur Marcelo Miranda with a theme related to fintechs and reflexes in the social area. We have Dr. Andrea Filippini Rodrigues Lauerman presenting us the Lucas Amoroso Institute in Guaratinguetá, a relevant work for the benefit of people with disabilities or just social.
Looks like we've lost Antonio. And just to follow on from what Antonio was saying until he comes back, he was talking a little bit about a lot of the work that Antonio does and really focusing on accessibility and disability. Welcome back, Antonio. Sorry.
Yes, sorry. These are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yes, these are for relevant, dedicated specialists. But we have Renata Ramalhete. She's a Portuguese person in Brazil, and we had Eduardo Javier Munhoz that knows Brazil as well. And thank you very much to Renata and to Edward. Continuing. These persons work in different and representative segments in Brazil: the university, the government, the digital business, and the organized civil society. We need all of them for smart cities, looking at the human person in the center of everything. These specialists reflect Brazil immense, rich in raw materials, in agribusiness, in segments of the manufacturing industry, and still rich in its potential for tourism and cultural diversity. The Brazilian people are friendly and open to a good conversation. So, what's the problem? For decades, we have tried to grow. Hello?
Yeah.
For decades, we tried to grow, to become more developed, but we have not fully succeeded. Social and economic differences between rich and poor remain immense. 4.0 technologies have a lot to contribute to social and economic change, both in environment and public policies, which will diminish the social gap with improvements in essential sectors, as in education, health, and people's purchasing power. Not only for those with a comfortable lifestyle, but mainly for the humble. These are enormous challenges. We need to take care of cities so that they become smart cities in a human-centric way, considering both the more developed centers of the cities as well as their outskirts, sometimes forgotten. We also need to care for rural areas and small urban locations that survive due to the services provided for these rural areas. But we need also, I prepared another paper, but we need also to have a model. Hilton, pay attention, please. Okay? We need as well to have a module for smart rural areas as an appendix for the smart cities. The white paper, this is a suggestion. What's the reason? We need food for billions of us. And without precision agriculture, no way, no food for everybody. This is the second point, because the first is our child in the rural areas, they need education, they need to have access to technology. And today, earlier, Andrea and Alexandre, they told us no connection, just 14% of the farms have reasonable connection.
Yeah.
Most of them with local technologies. But continuing.
Antonio, this is very, very, very important for us, and I thank you for that. We will focus, this is very important, is when we talk about smart cities, we also talk about smart cities, smart regions, and the use of technology which will access and join together and collaborate and bring together all these regions and support them. We're doing that in Africa. We're working with farmers in Africa on some agri-tech stuff that we're doing. We're very conscious of what we're doing in Brazil. We will reach out, and I will take on board your comments, and I thank you very much for that. We certainly thank, there are so many things to do. Disability is a major one of them. Agri-tech is another one of them. And I really, really want to thank you very much for your contribution to the Cities ABC Index DNA report, and we'll be bringing on board some more of your suggestions, because it's an evolving paper, and we're really, really thankful for your contribution. Dennis, you're on mute.
I think I will, yeah, it's a way of saying. So thank you so much, Antonio. Muito obrigado. I think actually this paper we need to publish in Cities ABC. Very interesting contribution, the idea of how to create smart rural areas, because I think there's a lot of things about cities, but not about the rural areas. So it's a very important topic. Let's promote it and do it. I think I don't have much to say about today. It's been a long day for everyone listening still around the world. I think I just want to thank our team for the excellent work, all the panelists and people listening to us around the world. It's been a lot of things. I think all these panels are available on YouTube, on Twitter, and in different channels. And I'm very proud that we achieved so far in the last few days around 60,000 plus views. And there's still another day to go tomorrow. Of course, it'll be a shorter day, but we still have fantastic panels and a fantastic actually lineup of ideas. So, Antonio, from Brazil, muito obrigado. It's been fantastic having you as our Brazilian partner, and as well someone that has a fantastic energy and passion for social impact, but as well driving a lot of the things. Hilton, Serafima, a pleasure to work with you. I think we are seconding this event to make it bigger, but as well to make it more valuable. And like you said, Serafima masterclass that you can actually empower people, and they will stay here because most of these things can be reused and listened to, and there's a lot of insights very valuable for everyone. So I think for the day, I think we all need a deserved break. Have a great evening, everyone, or good morning, wherever you are in the world. And thank you so much, Antonio, for your contribution, and everyone.
My pleasure. Okay.
Thank you, Serafima. Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you, Serafima, Hilton, and Diniz. Very nice.
Stay safe.